guys and gals, Never here from Drake Wing Gaming, and something Mount Twitter, the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you with a Let's Play episode of A Fall from Grace. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. The others erupted into cheers as Victor embraced the coyote so vigorously he lifted him off the ground for a good couple of seconds. The group laughed, Cedric looking completely overwhelmed as he shook his head, his face growing hot. Dion was chuckling jovially. "When's the wedding, you two?" He patted the coyote on the back. "Welcome to the team, Cedric. I, and indeed all of us, expect great things from you." "I now think it's time we explain the meaning of all these trials, and we're very grateful for your patience, Ced. Concerning mine and Blake's, let me put it this way. When you're a bandit, you'll find yourself in a number of tricky situations. The more you learn to be nimble and to observe and take your surroundings into account even while you're not sober, the luckier you'll be. And luck is a good ally to have on your side, wouldn't you say?" This made sense, and Cedric finally felt like he'd actually accomplished something worthwhile. "Mine and Selwyn's is a trial of judgment. We wanted to get a glimpse of your thought process, understand how you view things and which you prioritize. In some situations, you might have to choose which tools to take with you and which to leave behind, or which artifacts to steal amongst many." "I see. That's useful indeed." "I think I've already explained the reasoning behind mine in a sufficiently detailed manner." The others chuckled. "Indeed you have, Dion." All I'll say about mine is that it was purely luck-based. And you're a very lucky boy, my dear." Cedric grinned as the bandits all shook his hand before splitting up once more, Cody and Victor now walking off by themselves. It was late afternoon and the clouds had scattered as the sun showed its face at last. The day had gone by incredibly fast, and it wouldn't be long now before the sun would slowly begin to set. "How are you feeling?" Victor tried to make some friendly conversation. He was worried Cedric might be tired after all the trials he'd had to undergo. "Very satisfied, to be honest." "As you should be. You did very well, and now you're one of us." Cedric nodded. I still need more training, though. We both remember how messy our first robbery was." "Oh, the time we almost died? I have no recollection whatsoever." Cedric shoved his friend jokingly at that remark. "You rogue! I'll make it up to you, V, I promise." "I have no doubt." They reached the stream and walked along the side, listening to the gentle sound of the flowing water. Victor spoke again in what sounded like a more serious tone. "What do you think?" "Of what?" "Everything. This place. The others. Joining the group." Cedric chose his words carefully as he replied. "I'm deeply glad to be here. It's only been a day, but I feel at home, and also very accepted by the others. It's something difficult to put into words, but it feels like they understand what I've been through." "That's because they all share experiences similar to ours." "I discovered as much after speaking to a few of them yesterday evening, and Dion also made it quite clear earlier with his speech." Victor smiled, observing his surroundings as he spoke. "That hyena, for all his muscles and brutish appearance, is one of the campus tail raisers I've ever met. As for the rest of them, Ridley has had the fact that he was born female to contend with, among other things. Plus, he and Blake have had an off-and-on relationship for a few years now." The Cody's ears perked up at this information. "Oh, really?" Victor laughed. "I'm quite sure if you asked them whether they were a couple, they'd each give you a different answer. Selwyn is a bit of a mystery. He usually keeps these things to himself, though I have a hunch he might not care for physical or romantic relationships very much." Like, no, coffee time. What about Hollis? He's another certified tail raiser. Let's just say there was always something going on behind closed doors of that tavern of his. Cedric had been listening, filled with curiosity. "And he was the first man I slept with." "Lucky fellow." "Oh, we're being flirtatious, are we?" Victor ruffled the coyote's hair with his left hand. "You naughty boy." Cedric lifted both hands up playfully. "I was simply making an observation." The two were silent for a couple of minutes as they turned back in the camp's direction. Cedric didn't mind it. He enjoyed his time with the fox even when they weren't conversing about anything or even talking at all. Then, as they walked uphill, Victor spoke again. "I almost forgot to say this, but we have a job for you. You're one of us now, so you're going to need to get yourself a mask." "That's easier said than done. Where could I find one? Do you have any extras you don't use at the camp?" The fox shook his head. "Unfortunately not. You'll have to go into town and purchase one from a shop." This sounded dangerous. The coyote waited for his friend to finish speaking as he pondered whether or not he should go ahead with his plan. "But remember to buy a fairly plain one. Then once you're back here, you can decorate it as you please. And knowing you, it would look stunning once it's finished." Cedric replied worriedly, But what about the guards? They're surely still searching for us, and for the other bandits, too. Without a doubt, and that's why I can't come along with you. They'd recognize us immediately. Our best bet is for you to go alone. Ridley can give you a new set of clothes to wear, as the guards will probably remember that dark green outfit of yours. But how can I pay for the mask? The coyote was beginning to sound quite alarmed at this point. Victor tried to ease his nerves, speaking with a slow and calm tone. Don't panic, I've thought this all through. We can use the money from that gold-leaf purse you picked up as we were escaping from the guards yesterday. Just make sure you're carrying it in a different purse. They won't recognize your face thanks to the fact it was covered during the robbery. They won't recognize your different clothes, and they won't recognize any objects you have with you. Does that sound safe enough? Cedric kept thinking this through, trying to imagine a better way to get hold of the mask he was going to need. But the fox was right. There seemed to be no other options. This is very risky. Again, if I could come with you, I wouldn't hesitate. But you'll have to do this by yourself. I understand. As I've learned, a bandit's life is all about taking risks. I'll do it. Your bravery is impressive as always, Cedric, and you're a fast learner, too. I haven't forgotten you've been out of your element for days now. The two made their way to Ridley's tent, as the bear found Cedric a different set of clothes that fit his size. With the money from the gold-leaf purse moved into a bag tied to the belt he was now wearing, the coyote was set and ready to walk to the town nearby. Victor accompanied him until the moment they spotted the main road leading out of the forest in the distance. Then he whispered as the two parted ways before disappearing from view. Good luck, handsome. See you soon. Hiddingstone was a small and quaint town, mostly made up of old Tudor buildings, including the charmingly crooked town hall, as well as boasting a very old and rather plain medieval church with its large and decorated windows. Overall, it was nothing to write home about. In fact, for most people, it was just one of the many charming towns they'd passed on their way to somewhere important. The sun began setting to cast long and sinister shadows along the main street, as many farmers, milkmaids, and other folk made their way home. Another preferred destination at this time of day was the Hunter, the town public house. It wouldn't be long before the few shops would close their doors, too, as the shopkeepers counted the passing minutes, eagerly awaiting the moment they'd sit down with a jug of ale in hand inside the pub. It was at this moment Cedric reached the main street, still very nervous. The fact the group of locals passing by didn't give him any notice helped ease his mind. He's wearing a long and old brown coat, coupled with a dark gray waistcoat and a pair of cream-colored breeches. The coyote was grateful Ridley had made sure none of these plain colors would make him stand out from anyone else walking nearby. The clothes shop he was looking for was located next to the pub toward the end of the road. As he neared it, he noticed a group of guards noisily stepping out of the inn's entrance, holding their drinks. He almost froze as he caught sight of them, but forced himself to keep walking, as his behavior would appear much too suspicious otherwise. After what seemed like forever, he reached the small shop and opened the door, ringing a tiny bell above it as he walked in. The room he was now in was small, dimly lit, and completely filled with boxes and furniture containing all sorts of clothing. Behind the counter sat a short rabbit wearing a large pair of spectacles, with countless other piled boxes and fabrics towering behind him. On one of the upper shelves stood a series of masks, most of them fairly plain, with just a few displaying some elegant decorations. Cedric walked up to the counter, greeting the shopkeeper with all the confidence he could muster. "Good evening, sir," the rabbit replied with a hint of drowsiness, laying his spectacles on the wooden surface. "Same to you, young man. You're lucky I was just about to start closing the place." "I'll try not to intrude on your time too heavily. I was interested in those masks on that shelf above you." "Of course. Which ones were you eyeing?" The rabbit climbed a ladder, stretching his short arm to be able to reach the top shelf. "The ones without any decorations, please." The shopkeeper picked up the 4 plain masks and, once he'd gotten off the ladder, displayed them on the counter while Cedric wondered which he should choose. "Have you been invited to a masked ball or something of the sort?" The coyote was caught slightly off guard at this question, but tried to reply as casually as he could. "Yes, I'm actually a bit late for it already." He could see how Dion's advice about acting was already coming handy. The mask that stood out to him was the second from the left, created in the Venetian style. It was quite plain and looked very easy to breathe in. Most importantly, it would easily rest on his muzzle. Give it some additional string to tie around his head and a hat to keep everything in place, and there was no way it would risk slipping off. "I think I'll buy this one." "Would you like to try it on? There's a mirror to your left." The rabbit pointed in said direction as Cedric walked up to the mirror, holding the mask over his muzzle as his reflection looked back at him. It was surreal to observe what would soon be his appearance during future jobs with the other bandits standing in front of him, but it didn't look wrong. In fact, it seemed to suit the coyote well. "This will do very nicely, thank you." "Lovely, that'll be 2 shillings and 6 pence. Cedric laid the coins on the counter. He suddenly realized he'd better ask the rabbit to wrap up the mask. The last thing he wanted was for anyone to notice he was carrying it. "I'm afraid I don't have anything to wrap it up with. Perhaps you could tie to that belt of yours with this piece of string." This wasn't good, but it would have to do. The coyote followed the shopkeeper's advice and tried to keep it hidden below his coat. "Thank you very much. Have a nice evening." "Likewise, young sir. Good luck catching some damsels at that masked ball of yours." Cedric smiled at that remark as he opened the door, stepping out of the shop and back on the main street. He sighed in relief. That had been much easier than he'd expected. He'd really been worrying himself and picturing the scene ending catastrophically for no good reason before entering the shop. The sky was now turning a beautiful shade of pink, as the number of folks approaching the pub was steadily increasing. The soldiers he'd seen earlier appeared to have vanished, which was a good sign. With a pinch of renewed confidence, Cedric began his journey back to the bandit camp. That was when he noticed someone a short distance away heading in his direction, though he couldn't make their face out as they were silhouetted against the colorful sky. They were walking alone, which meant it couldn't be any of the guards, he thought to himself. Most likely it was a traveler intending to ask for directions, yet a pit began to suddenly grow in his stomach. And as the figure approached, he noticed there was something familiar about them. He recognized the way they walked, that peculiar tail wag, as well as the fancy way that mane was styled. The coyote's anxiety was replaced with pure annoyance at the sight of someone he knew he'd wasted far too much time with. "What the hell are you doing here, Lysander?" "Cedric, what a pleasure. I noticed that when you entered that small shop, so I decided I simply had to stop by to greet you." Cedric interrupted the line before he had a chance to finish his badly acted monologue. "That doesn't answer my question, not to mention I don't want to see you, let alone speak to you ever again." "You don't? But I am so interested in learning about what you have been up to. Tell me, are you still running about with that low-life fox, pretending to be an outlaw?" "That is none of your damn business." The coyote felt an unbridled amount of rage building up inside him. "Or perhaps he has already abandoned you for another young lad. That sort cannot be trusted, after all, not even with feelings of the heart." Cedric knew his best option was to walk away and not give the lion the satisfaction of reacting to his childish taunting, but the urge to take his frustrations out on the entitled brat was just too strong to resist, and there was no guarantee Lysander wouldn't just follow after him were he to up and leave. He began to think of a better plan to rid himself of the lion, speaking up to bide time. "How about you, Lysander? Are you finally living the life of your dreams with your newly met boyfriend? Or are you too much of a coward to even accept that part of who you are?" Lysander clenched his fist as he grabbed Cedric by the coat, pulling him closer. "I wouldn't keep up that cocky attitude if I were you, tail-raiser." The coyote doubled down. "What are you going to do? Are you going to go home crying to your parents? Are you going to call the guards because you're not even able to face me by yourself?" The lion almost hissed. "Calling the guards is the last thing I want right now, you idiot. No, I want you to follow me home, back where you belong, and I want you to forget anything that deceitful criminal has ever promised you." Alright, y'all, I'm actually going to pause it right there. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and that notification bell. I love you all, and I shall see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!